I just found out. I was like,
I did have one before. Down back there.
Why are you glad down before you get yourself up?
America fucking dominates everything, baby. We're coming back for the title. 2024 was not a reflection of the great power this nation has. Let's go, USA. Man. 100 balls unbroken at the end of a fucking individual Elite 15. Hunter can do anything for 6 minutes. Let's be real. Let's be fucking real. You sent a big dog. Big love. Big love. Fucking weekend, dude. We lived large. We lived large. That was fucking a race.
Yeah, dude.
That was
sick. Grabbing Celsius. It has been a long ride, and I'm excited to tell the story. See you guys soon. What's up, guys?
Let me make sure the mic is. Say something.
All right, Hunter's season recap video, take 1.
Is that doing it for you? How did your body hold up this camp? Were you able to stay healthy and consistent the whole way through?
Health is a humongous part about being a high-level athlete in any regard. The best version of yourself, you can't be it if you're hurt. I'm really lucky that nothing came up this camp. I had all my problems earlier in the year. I was sick all through October and November. I had hip and hamstring problems like going into January. And I remember the week before Vegas, my back was so bad that I couldn't get up off the ground. I don't know if you remembered it. You guys used to have to pick me up off the ground.
Yeah.
And it was just weird. It was just like, for some reason, I was just going through all of these swamps to get to the promised land, you know? And it was just such perfect timing that all of a sudden, by the time I had worked through all the swamps, I was perfectly set up to be as ready as possible for that training camp. No injuries, no mental issues, no drama. I cut almost, admittedly, I cut everybody out of my life that could have been a distraction. And I just got to work.
How do you balance keeping intensity high without burning out?
One of the biggest things that I did this year to keep intensity really high was chasing segments. I made sure, it's very hard to just always look at your watch and just always constantly have to get another rep or cut off another second in these stupid workouts was kind of rotating through segments, meaning like the devil's butt crack. Like I knew I wanted to get that really badly, but I worked over here for a little while, then I worked over here for a little while, and then I went and attacked it, and I dominated it. And I just knew, I treated that almost like a competitor or a race itself. And I just knew that if I could get these small little wins all the time, that I would just show up excited. And I didn't really care too much if all of a sudden, like everything in between my major workouts was a wash, meaning like if all of a sudden I was too tired to do an easy run today, I would walk. I would go for a hike. I would pull the day out. You know, if you think about it, like earlier in the year, I was getting 20-hour weeks. And near the end, when I was training for championships, I'd get like 10 to 12-hour weeks. So it's about 50% less volume. Yeah. But the reality was the workouts were so knockout that it was transformative. It was undeniably transformative. Nothing was there other than what was necessary. You talk to an athlete, you talk to an artist, it's the same exact thing. If I gave you a large stone, you'd have to hit it with a sledgehammer to start. These big, grandiose swings, smashing away, taking off all the unnecessary stuff. And it's not very refined. In the beginning, you just need to start attacking it. And then as it goes further and further on, like you can't do that. Everything has to be so perfect and polished and so refined that it can't be with the same intensity. It has to be exact. Otherwise, you'll never get the shape that you want. So it changes. And I let my ego go completely because there's all these people online posting these crazy workouts and making these grandiose statements. And you could see like there was this kind of silent bragging going on throughout the internet about what everyone was doing and how ready they were. And I had to really shut that off too, because you ultimately always want to be the biggest dog in the room. Like if I'm going to do another season of this, I really don't give a shit about training for HYROX at all. I'm going to do everything that makes me feel like a macho man, and I'm going to win the day, and that will ultimately make me win the race.
How did you feel on race morning? Were there any nerves, or did you feel locked in?
I've been excited for a long time. I don't know if you can tell, but like my demeanor in the past year has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I knew that I had done everything that I could have possibly done, and I was going to be the fittest version of myself and have the most fun possible. Like, I was smiling and laughing when they called my name all the way down and through to the race gate. And I was smiling, laughing pretty much all the way to the finish line. Like, I was pretty pumped, like, knowing going into the wall balls that I pretty much had won world championships. Tim got away with it. Don't get me wrong. Like, that was badass. But I thought I had already won the thing all the way through. So there was excitement all the way into the last wall balls. Like, everything was coming together. When I woke up in the morning, I was excited. You know, I walked into town, got myself a cup of coffee. I was around the people that I wanted to be around. It was a very different experience. Ultimately, like this year, I fell in love with racing again. You know, the HYROX World Championships was just one of many pieces to the puzzle that really brought back, I think, the old hunter.
Was there a part of the race that caught you off guard and played out different than expected?
I'm not a man of excuses, so I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way. My biggest mistake was I showed up and I raced in gloves, and I had not trained in gloves all year. And the last week before I went and raced, I thought to myself, I was like, man, when I was really doing well, I raced in gloves all the time. I was like, I got to put my gloves back on. And I didn't train on the sleds at all. Like, I tested everything, but then all of a sudden you take those gloves that I tested and then you soak them in sweat, where by the time I got to the sled pull, they were soaked in sweat. They were so soaked in sweat, I couldn't pull the sled pull. And I don't know if you go back and look at the footage, I was trying to wrap the rope around my arm. I got this huge advantage in sled push, and then I lost it all during sled pull, and I was totally fried. And then by the time I got to burpees, my posterior chain and everything was just so full of lactic acid. I wasn't able to use my legs because I was using my upper body so much. I didn't do as well as I wanted to on burpees. And then I went and just chilled out on the row, and then I went to the farmer's carry, and I had like lobster claws. And I dropped the farmer's carry a bunch of times, where it was just kind of crazy to me. I was like, this isn't the way I thought it was going to play out. I didn't panic, but these were not considerations in my race at all, in my game plan at all. And it was all because I just changed that last dynamic. And I'll never forget, back in 2020, I competed against Ryan Atkins and a bunch of other athletes, but ultimately Ryan Atkins in an event called the Spartan Games. And Ryan beat me because of a couple small details, not because of his fitness. And I started putting up on the board all over where I was, details win races. And, you know, ultimately that really changed my career path, because I started to get very detail oriented about all the equipment that I was using. And I don't know why I let myself just change that very small detail near the end. And I feel stupid saying it. So only reason why I'm announcing this is not to make excuses. Like, I lost, but I'm saying this to my future self and to all athletes watching this. Like, you got to be really, really careful. The way you train is the way you race. Don't change your shoes beforehand. Don't change your gloves beforehand. Like, your body has accommodated for all of the things that you've done, and it has not accommodated or adjusted for the things that you're doing now. Like that last minute change. It's just not worth it. That's my lesson and mistake.
With that being said, what part of the race are you most proud of when you look back?
I really think, like, I'm most proud of just finishing 100 wall balls unbroken. Yeah. I know it seems cheesy, but this will be, in December, it will be the start of my 6th season doing HYROX. And I've never done 100 wall balls unbroken. And it's just one of these kind of things where, like, ultimately, it is just a piece of the race, but it is the cherry on top. Yeah. You know? I walked away from that race being like, I felt so proud of myself. Yeah, I didn't get the win, I didn't get the cash, you know, whatever, but I was like, I felt like this, it's back again. I felt like I was on the wave, surfing again. Yeah. I wasn't caught up in all the whitewash and the churn, missing the waves like I have been for the past year. I was up. I was on it. Like, I was owning it. And it was a space of, like, freedom. I could have done, like, another fucking 100 wall balls. I felt it. If that race was, like, you know, 150 wall balls, it'd be a totally different story. And I was just prepared, you know? And that's just one of those kind of things where there's so much freedom in that preparation when you put it all together. Yeah. And you're able to use it. Yeah. Unlimited.
Do you think the 30-pound wall ball helped?
Yeah, I gotta think, dude. Like, I guess I'll just start out with my thanking list. First of all, I'm gonna thank Lauren Stallwood. Okay. Lauren Stallwood, she just, like, shit all over me in Vegas for dropping the wall ball, where it was, like, another time. But this time I went unbroken. She was like, dude, you're a bitch at the wall balls. And I was like, yeah. And I just wasn't training wall balls. I was training with a 14-pound wall ball often. Yeah. Because I was like, just get the reps in, dude. She bought me the 30-pound wall ball. Wow. And she sent it to the house. Yeah. This is probably the best gift that I've gotten in, like, a decade. It was crippling when I first started. It's not the weight, it's like the positioning, the catch. It's just a miserable experience. And I could barely do 30 when I first got started. I'll start with my friends. I gotta thank Kyle. Kyle really showed up in training camps, on phone calls, and he was there shouting at me the whole time. You know, Kid Koki going after the world record. He's gonna get it done. That dude's an unstoppable mindset and body of a person. George was there, Ben was there, you know, the rest of the crew was all there. There was people just showing up. If I didn't mention your name, you guys know, like, you're my crew. Marshall showed up, the girls, Alana, Tracy, they backed everything that we were doing, making sure that the company was running smoothly so that I didn't have to just constantly be looking behind me to see what was going on like last year. Austin, making sure that he was dialed in and supporting from the side. Obviously Tito putting together all the content, like, it was massive. Cy was a part of that too. You know, if I had to look at my team from a standpoint of just, like, my advisors, I got to look at, you know, even though I think he's an asshole and sometimes doesn't know what he's talking about, Rich Diaz, always been in my corner. Mike from Precision CrossFit, Mike Tremello, you know, was one of these kind of guys who didn't ever really impose a lot. He just kind of listened. That was really important. Paul, Paul really just helped me keep my mind evened out, kept it smooth. Jacques helped me get the season started. He really believed in me and pushed me in the beginning when it was hard to get started. Got to thank my family. You know, I don't think a lot of people get how complicated it can be to be a high-level athlete and then also be very involved in the family. I can't be very involved in my family.
Yeah.
So it's all over phone calls. You know, I still get to see my family 5-10 times a year, but it's in and out. And they accept it, they back it, and they don't doubt me anymore. I think in the beginning of my career, they were really doubting me because they didn't know it was going to get to this. You know, my entire career was basically this thing where it was always like, are we going to make it? I think if you were around this weekend, it's undoubtable that we've made it. You know, it's one of these kind of things that it is 15 years of brick building. It took a long time to have the foundation, the walls, and create the shape so that we can really call this thing a pretty fruit-bearing and amazing career. And they've been with me the whole time. You know, my dad sponsored my first 3 races. My mom would show up to them. When I first got started in California, she'd fly out and watch me. My brother would just listen to all my dumb stories, and he came and raced a couple of them. Next group I'm going to thank that I probably have not thanked enough is my sponsors. You know, I'd have to say Puma believed on me in a level that I think no sponsors really ever matched before. I think it's really tough. When I first started with Puma, I remember they wouldn't even give me any money because nobody believed in HYROX. And I was like, guys, please, it's going to work. And, you know, I had some really, really good people over in the UK team that were helping me out a lot. Chris this season was backing me. Dirk was the first person to ever believe in me. The whole team over there. And they just made this season just so smooth, no bumps. Everything that I needed, they backed it. I got to thank 𝗕𝗏𝗻𝘁 for believing in the fact that like HYROX is something worth investing on the technology side. They were there. They worked their asses off. They backed me. They made the gold watch. You know, they were just cool. It's hard to sometimes find a sponsor that's just cool.
Yeah.
They're just like, dude, do you. We believe it. We know it's going to work out. Usually people are like, oh, could you do this? Could you do that? They're like, no, you're Hunter. We invested in Hunter for a reason. Celsius is another company where it's like, when we first started working with them, I don't even think they really knew what was going to go. And they were like, we're going to take a risk. We're going to gamble. And anytime we mention something, they're like, fuck it. We're in. That's pretty cool for a company of that size that has not even dipped their toe in this space just to jump in. That was absolutely amazing. And last but not least, you know, I got to say the feed. The feed has been just this amazing company. I've probably built a better relationship with the 2 people that run the feed than any other set of sponsors that I've ever worked with. And that's amazing to find relationships that are that good at this point in my life, in this, you know, in this career path. Just to know that there's still awesome, awesome, awesome people out there that you still haven't met yet, and there's just so many cool people right around the corner. And, you know, ultimately, could not have done it. I mean, for the first time in my entire career, I flew all the way around the world. I went LA, Australia, through Dubai, to Glasgow, to New York City, then to back home. All the way around the world. Could not have done it without them. Yeah, man, I'm grateful.
Run us through your training. Run us through the details. What did it entail? What did it take? What did it cost?
Yeah. So I'll break down with you guys right now like exactly what I did for my training for 12 weeks leading up to the world title. Ultimately, I'm also going to say this to you guys. It took me a really long time to get to this point. So thinking that you can just do it day 1 or even year 1 or year 3 into your career, it's probably not going to work. You have to find your own refined model and make it work for yourself. So don't get caught up in this honeypot trap. So Mondays were about speed, and I usually did a session that was 8 by 4 minutes with 60 seconds rest between. Near the end, I was able to hold paces under 5:05 pace and a couple that were under sub 5-minute miles. And the idea is it was speed, but with very little rest. And it was about 20 seconds faster per K than I was running in the race. So, you know, it's kind of overreaching, but totally, totally worth it because it just builds these super fucking fast, strong legs. The next session that I did was what I called like a power hour. Just went out for a run, came back, got on the turf. I would push the sled for a minute on, minute off for 5 rounds, so that's 10 minutes. I'd pull the sled for 10 minutes. I'd do the burpee broad jump for 10 minutes, and then I'd do the lunges for 10 minutes. And then I would do a couple push-ups and back extensions. In reality, every single day, my goal was ultimately just to cover more distance every week. And it really made a huge difference. Sometimes I would do some of it in a weight vest, but the biggest goal was just more distance. And I didn't mess around with the weight. I just set the weight the same all the time, and I just tried to gain more distance. It was really right around race weight, nothing that complicated, cover more distance. Tuesdays were all about long distance. I only did one run, and I woke up in the morning, I'd run down to the ocean and back up, and it usually took me about 1:20 to 1:40 on those longer runs. Wasn't that crazy, but ultimately, in the very beginning of it, it was just so hard to come off of a fatigued day like that and then get out there and get going. You know, my heart rate wasn't really high, and I would just cover the distance, but at the end of the day, man, like, it made me so tough. It totally was a humongous difference of how I was able to sustain power output and surge near the end of the race. Wednesdays was just an easy day. I would usually wake up in the morning and I would do kind of another like 𝗕𝗵 kind of thing, and I would usually do it up at Big Bear, up at 7,000 feet. And what the goal was is I would run for a minute, ski for a minute, row for a minute, and rotate through. And I got to the point where I was doing it for about an hour straight, and I would be holding, you know, 145 to 148 on all the machines. Goal was to keep the heart rate under 145 beats per minute, which was zone 2. So it was meant to be an easier day because those first 2 days were pretty hard. Thursday, we would wake up in the morning and we would do this really, really hard workout, 12 to 14 rounds of a sled pull into 20 burpees with a vest on into about a minute and a half running. And sometimes I would do it here, but usually I was doing it up in Crestline. And, you know, the goal was to hold, you know, only about 165 beats per minute. So kind of like just above zone 3, low zone 4. You know, 14 rounds of that, you're looking at maybe 280 burpees. It was a lot. It was a lot. And it just took a while to recover from that. And then in the afternoon, I would usually just do strength training. And I would do a front squat and a bench press. What I was doing at the beginning of the season is I looked at this strength to weight ratio. What I did was I took the weight and then I divided it, the weight on the bar, and I divided it by my body weight. And I made a very, very simple formula where I was trying to figure out what is my strength to weight ratio and can I make it very, very aggressively positive. So I started out at 210 when I got back from Glasgow, and I got down to 196, 197. So, but I added 30 pounds. So I added 20% to my strength to weight ratio by the time the season was done in that 12-week period. You know, the weight loss was a major factor, but also I didn't recognize I was going to have that much of a weight gain on the bar. So that to me showed that I had this massive surge in performance, and I just love looking at numbers like that. I make it very, very simple. Everyone's trying to come up with these bullshit things and have so many expensive doctors and physiologists and things like that, where ultimately, where I was saying in the beginning of this video, that the biggest factor that I recognized was going back to simplicity. Hey, you have 60 seconds to do as many push-ups as you can. If you beat it, you're fitter. Oh, well, is his power to weight ratio and his neurological system firing off at the right primal rate to have optimal results? Most of the people that are telling you these kind of things, that are trying to get you to do something, to invest in their program, don't know fucking shit. There's people that I call field science and lab science. Like, I have studied everything there is to know about lab science, but then all of a sudden, you take this book and you put it into the wild, and it just doesn't fucking stand. There's something that is so ridiculous about this whole world of exercise science that these guys just don't fucking get it. There's a reason why coaches that are sitting on the sidelines are chubby bitches. Like, you know, they are the people that always want to tell you what to do, but they don't really have the capacity to do what they're telling you what to do. And that's why they'll always stand on the sidelines. And those people are smart, but sometimes it's just a different factor that you cannot measure that when you bring it into the real world. So I just kept it simple. And so I did that strength training on Thursday. Sorry, that was a long one. Altitude was a really big factor, and I could notice a very, very large shift in the way that my body was feeling when it came to the aerobic efforts, and then also, ultimately, the recovery. So now there's not a ton of science measuring exactly what I did, but I kind of did a hybrid method of it. There's what's called the live high, train low method, where you're supposed to live up anywhere between like 5,500 feet and 7,500 feet, and you're training up there for the majority of your work, and then you come down below 3,000 feet for your hard efforts, because you have a stimulus where there's sub-oxygen up top and then there's denser oxygen down below. You get your stimulus because you can push harder down below, and then you go back up and you strain yourself with thinner oxygen, and you keep on stimulating red blood cell growth. I would do that every single week, where I would be from Tuesday until Sunday morning, or Sunday afternoon, I would be in altitude, and I would either do that through an altitude tent here. There's a company called Box Altitude. You guys got to check it out. If you do not live in altitude, this is 100% the best opportunity you guys are going to have to create that for yourself and create that stimulus. The guy who owns it, his name's Rico. He's very cool. Helped me out a tremendous amount. And then on Sundays, I would come back to Malibu and I would do my hardest efforts here, both at sea level. And then I would go right back up, over and over and over again. Recovery, I was really in a great place where I was using the sauna all the time, ice baths pretty frequently. Not the most, and I wasn't looking at it from a standpoint where I had all these numbers and this scientific back like stuff. I did everything based off of body feel. There's like this measurement of like what's the best and what's emotionally the best for you. If I felt great, that's what mattered. I don't give a shit. I wasn't tracking my heart rate variability. I wasn't using a mega wave. I wasn't using like a whoop kind of thing. I wasn't doing any of that. I was doing everything based off of feel. And, you know, when I would train, I was using obviously my watch, and I would see my heart rate response based off of my efforts. There was never really a point where I overreached too much, which was really great because that's what happened to me last year. And if there was ever a point where I was fatigued, I just gave myself a double day of rest. And I started doing that more near the end than I've ever done before. That was a really, really big factor in keeping myself in the game. And, you know, ultimately, if I had a piece of paper from a coach where there was just work to be done, I would have ignored my like red flashing factors where I was like, Hunter, you need rest. I would just keep on tackling it. I think because I just was talking to coaches this year rather than having specific workloads from them made a really big difference in why I didn't push so hard. But I would say those were the biggest factors that made a difference in my training. And, you know, supplementation, the biggest thing that I changed this year is I used bicarb. Now, bicarb is one of these kind of things where I would say that it's good, but I would say beta-alanine is pretty close to it. The bicarb thing is risky because it is very stressful on your digestive system. Like, I'll be honest with you guys, I shit my pants a lot. I shit myself a lot. It wasn't fun. Like, if you're not fully bought into this thing, you ain't about that life. I would stick to beta-alanine. Like, Pre-Power is such a great product. Like, it's our product at Builder Sports. I use it for that reason. I decided to go with bicarb this season because I just was like, you know what? If I'm going to go all in on something, I'm willing to take myself to places that I normally wouldn't just to find out. And it gave me good feedback, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I got started. I'm going to finish it. Will I use it again next season? 50-50. We'll see.
When you're looking back at the race footage of your own performance, what do you immediately notice?
I think I look fast and I look strong. from what I did see.
Yeah.
And like I felt myself again. Like if you guys look at a lot of my old videos for the past like year and a half, you could see me kind of like, just my posture was off. I wasn't attacking. There was a lot of like just panic in my face.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why there was a lot of panic in my face is because like I just was never really in that position. My whole career, I've never really been in that panic position. I've always been in the attack position. And I felt like myself again, so like that wasn't there. I wasn't wearing this kind of fear on my face.
Yeah.
Like right now, I could even say, like I've been drinking beer and hanging out for the last week. If you put me back in World Championships today, I'd fucking attack and I'd get the job done. So I feel good, you know? And I think I've kind of washed that bad voodoo off me.
What's the biggest takeaway from this race, whether it's something you learned or something you proved?
I guess my biggest takeaway from this race is like, it's still there, dude. Like you got it. It's not gone. I'm not gonna lie. I thought I had maybe overtrained myself so bad that I had lost it. I was like, dude, is my magic carpet gone? Like, is it gone? Is this it? Did I just like hit this point where I went too far and like old age is setting in where it just doesn't come back? Nope. It's fucking right there.
Yeah.
I can wear it like a hat anytime I want. Just got to do it right.
So what's the next move from here? Another training block? More races? Or time to rest?
I think for me, dude, like the next step for me is going to be getting back into the mountains. Like whatever I continue to do from this point on, it's going to be from the standpoint of the mountains. I would rather run in the mountains. I'd rather find out who I am on the way to the top of a mountain rather than the bottom of a hill. I'm going to get back into paddling. I'm going to go test myself and feel it out and really see if this like Olympic dream is something that I'm really interested in. I'm going to go get my setup and I'm going to get the rig going. I'm going to get back in the water, and between like here and like March next year, I'm going to start paddling like 2 to 3 days a week. If you think about it, like those easy workouts that could be running, I'll be paddling.
Let's talk about the relay.
Oh. Oh.
Before we get into the nitty gritty, run us through the highs of the actual race.
Of the relay?
Yeah, it looked fun. How was it?
I think relay races are sick. You know, I started out my career doing a lot of relay races. You know, we had, what was it called? Like in OCR, we had Extreme Nation, we had some Tough Mudder relay races, we had OCR WC, which was sick. It was so sick. Like we were just savages out there and you get to rampage. I like that a lot. And, you know, I've never really been much of a team athlete just because I like just getting the job done, not really having to talk about it, just be about it. So it was good. And like, I felt my horsepower. I was so much more jacked up than last year. I just fucking was handling it. There was a lot of trash talk going into this thing amongst a lot of the athletes. Like, the Macho Man stations are the ski and the row. It's the longest section you can do.
Yeah.
And just got in there and went to war against the big boys, and I pulled out the W. So, you know, for me, like especially the first round and the first station, you just got all these guys hauling ass. It's all testosterone and fucking just it's a running the bulls.
Yeah.
It's really all it is.
Yeah.
You pick the biggest person on your team, you put them out there, and you just ask them to go to war. And that's what we did, dude. We were tuned up, ready to fire down, and fuck, dude, it was wild.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was sick. Like, I will say right now, fucking don't put me in a room next to you if you don't want to get fucked up, because that's what that section is.
Well, touching on that a bit, why weren't we on the podium?
Listen, you can do whatever the hell you want. You can say that we didn't win that race, but anybody who's an athlete out there, you got to go to bed at night and recognize that you've got a pussy's medal hanging around your neck. We got disqualified, which I guess it's the sport's choice. I get it. Like, there's rules out there for a reason. And, I think it's just one of these kind of things where my actions 100% affected, the team both positively and negatively. I did my job as far as my stations went. As far as falling exactly into the rule book, I didn't do my job. And then there's this other X factor, was just like, hey man, like, you're an athlete who's been doing this for a really long time, and you are leading the way for a lot of people, and you gotta remind the community and yourself about what you're doing out here and how to get it done. I can show you guys right now. I started saving videos because I thought about doing this whole like storyline talking about like how we ended up in this position. You could show all these sports where contact is a part of all sports, at every single level. Shit, dude, I bet you people have even body slammed each other in ping pong at one point. It's just part of it. And there's this hierarchy of competitors, and you know, if you think about hockey, it's probably the most designed version of that, and it's part of their culture. Where there's what they call like the A player, and then there's the goons. And you know, people are going after the A players, and the goons are there to keep everything in check. And sometimes the A player has to be the goon, and that was me in that position. And you know, a lot of athletes are trying to gain advantage, and they do it through tactics that are not necessarily ethically like part of what the field does. And you know, I personally have put people in check my whole career, because I'm not like a part-time guy. I'm a journeyman. I'm a lifer. And I've been at the front of this pack for 15 fucking years. And I will tell you, if it's your first day on the job, I'm gonna show you how it's fucking done. And you might catch an elbow, but you're gonna learn a lesson, and you're not gonna do it again. And I'm gonna keep the culture of this sport and this mentality on its A game. And you know, at the end of the day, I think I did what I did for my country, I did it for my sport, and I did it for myself. And at the end of the day, if you'd ask me if it was gonna happen again, yes. And if I'm gonna get DQ'd or catch points negatively, so be it. I'd rather own my dignity than a medal attached to winning over a DQ. My opinion of the DQ is, it's not my choice, first of all, so gotta lead with that. But if you look at most sports, they fine players, they do a lot of things to a player that did something that was malicious or out of line. To knock out a whole team, hey man, sports have been going on for a really long time. It's pretty much very unheard of to just knock a team out because of something like that. The disqualification was kind of lame.
With that, what does it take when there's people that want to race against the big dogs but aren't necessarily there yet?
I have been racing my whole career with hundreds and hundreds of guys who are standing shoulder to shoulder with me at the start line. Basically, they don't have they're not bona fide to be there, but the sport just allows them there because that's just how the way it's designed. And for Christ's sake, man, like my whole career, I've always shown up and there's this pack of dudes that go out, like 20 dudes. There's 20 pros and there's 20 dudes and there's hundreds of other people just there. And they just go out and they just get in front of everybody so they can get that first feeling of a high to be seen by everybody. And they just get in the way of everything. And they fuck shit up because they want to have their moment. The reality is like, hey man, maybe that's just part of your experience. You got to learn the hard way. And eventually, if they're ever going to get better, they're going to have to stop doing that because that's not how you race. Like if you notice, we don't run out in front of everybody and then die off a lap later. That's what a lot of these guys do. And it's a hard lesson, man. That just takes time to figure out your pacing and your strategy. But
do you feel like people forgot what you've done in this sport and that you had to remind them?
I think it's tough because, like, I'll give you a great example. Like, people probably forgot a lot about Tim Winnish until this year. Tim was amazing like 3 years ago. And then the past 2 years, he got injured and couldn't compete at Worlds, and then he won this year. So it's like, I guarantee nobody was talking about Tim. Nobody was talking about Tim. Like, he wasn't even up there when we did the press conference. Like I said, I was like, yo, Tiny Tim's right there. A lot of these guys who talk shit, especially the people in the comments, it's like, you're here for a year, and then you're going to get bored and you're going to go on to the next Orange Theory class. So, like, I wasn't doing anything to remind anybody. Ultimately, these people all show up. They're high as a kite, so excited to try something new. This isn't new for me. It's a career. So, you know, at the end of the day, I just wait for everyone else to kind of burn out their little buzz, and I'm still here. Guess what? Right where I was before. And most of the people you're seeing right now making all these loud noises are not going to be here next year. Not just the athletes, I'm talking about the community. They're going to move on to the next thing. They're going to go do a color run. I want to try a triathlon now. And they're in your comments, and they're like hybrid star. Yeah. You know, my name's hybrid star. It's like, you know, Jack Johnson, HYROX 101. It's like, dude, you little fucking fanboy. I was like, what are you doing? It's like, you're such an embarrassment that your title includes HYROX or hybrid boy. So you just can't get caught up in this shit. And yeah, dude, like, I've been on the podium more than any other male athlete. I've got 3 world titles, not 1. I hold the world record forever and always in this sport. And people are still like, who is he? That, right there, that whole list. It's fucking forever long. Yeah. So, you know, keep on making your statements, but there's facts and then there's fiction.
Is this story still being written, or are we going a different direction?
I mean, dude, our story is still being written. I want to go to the Olympics, dude. Yeah. Like, that's a real fucking athlete. Yeah, oh man, you got excited about HYROX for a couple years and made the Elite 15. It's like, no, dude, I did a half a dozen sports better than everybody else in the world. Yeah. Like, that's a story. You know, during the press conference, people were like, so what about your legacy with HYROX and stuff? I was like, get it straight. I'm Hunter McIntyre and I do HYROX. HYROX ain't me. I really have started this career with the intentions of always moving on and moving up. Yeah. And this is just the start. This ain't my bookend.
Well, when it is all said and done, what do you want people to remember about the way you competed?
I guess this season my motto has been dangerous. Yeah. I want to be remembered as dangerous. I want to be remembered that every single time that I show up, everyone has to beat me, and I'm ready to go to war. That's just it, dude. I love it that way.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on the entire weekend?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm grateful. You know, last year this time, I remember sitting in a chair in Malta talking about how I just couldn't get it done and how I had fallen apart. This is 1 year from then, and it's the same guy, it's just a different perspective. And I had to do a lot to shift my perspective because I had the black spot on me from Treasure Island, like it was a curse. I think people really have to see themselves in that moment and recognize that you are not that moment. It is just a moment in time. It's all about perspective. It's all about language. It's all about creating and manifesting and shifting and reaching and never quitting. Because I could have walked away last season and just been like, that's it. But I came back through all the hardship. I kept on losing throughout the season. And I ultimately lost at the end. But don't get me wrong. But I won myself back. I won that moment back and my dignity and my like respect for who I am as an athlete. And I showed myself it could still be done. Yeah. So, like, you got to think about it. Like, if you didn't get what you wanted this year at Worlds, who gives a shit? You got next year. Yeah. Show it to yourself that you're not just a one-hit wonder. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Be the person that's like a journeyman. Get it done. Yeah. Go get it done. It's the person that's consistent. Across everything that I've seen in my entire career, there's talent everywhere. Yeah. But consistency is so hard to find. Yeah. Be the consistent one.
That's it.
Okay, 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗸𝗁.